Blue Eyes White Dragon. More like Wargame Red Dragon, am I right? Sorry guys, I have no opening joke for this one. In today's humble opinion, we're sitting in the trenches in Wargame Red Dragon. Before we get started, I want to be perfectly upfront about something. I haven't played this game very long, and I'm probably not any sort of authority on the matter when it comes to this game specifically. I gave it a shot, I got frustrated, I read the 200-page introductory beginner's guide written by someone who actually enjoys the game, tried to give it another shot, and still had no idea what the fuck I was doing. I simply don't understand how to play it, I wasn't enjoying the process of learning how to play it, and I didn't want to continue playing it. Real-time strategies already aren't really my thing, but this one is complicated on a whole different level. Most of this is going to be coming from what I've learned of the game via reading the guide. It's very in-depth and incredibly well written. It's called the 200-page guide to Wargame Red Dragon, and at the time of writing this review, the author's name was Spooky Ghost Fox. Special thanks to him, as I couldn't have even remotely spoken about this game had I not read the guide. The game's not beginner friendly, and I would have quickly written it off as complicated bullshit nonsense like most of your average players before me. Needless to say, Wargame Red Dragon is not your father's real-time strategy. It's more like your great-great-grandfather's real-time strategy that they played on pen and paper in the dim flickering light of a lamp while hiding in the trenches during World War I, which is weird given the time frame of the game. Great-great-granddaddy must have been a prophet. If you go into Wargame Red Dragon expecting your mainstream real-time strategy experience like so many people before you, myself included, you're going to get your ass handed to you, and you'll wonder why anyone in their right mind would develop such a horrendous monstrosity of an experience. Probably trying and failing to ride that glorious Dark Souls coattail, you'll think. Or it's a clever attempt to kill you by spiking your blood pressure. In reality, neither is the case. We're just bad at this game and terribly ignorant of the skills needed to be good at it. In some ways, this is the game's fault. I read through the entirety of the tutorial section and learned absolutely nothing that would keep me from getting slaughtered mercilessly time and time again. I think what the game desperately needs are actual playable tutorial missions that demonstrate the key aspects of actually playing the game. I hear there are supposedly some somewhere, but I couldn't be fucked to find them. I gave up. This game makes me give up a lot, probably because I'm a lover and not a fighter. In other ways, it's just the nature of the game. Wargame Red Dragon is only a real-time strategy because of its mechanics, but it's not created to play like other games in the genre. It's not so simple. There's a lot of depth and complexity, so much that there's a 200-page beginner's guide that I highly recommend you read just to explain the philosophy of the game itself before unloading all of the basic information and its basic applications that you need to understand and memorize to utilize to its fullest capabilities. I'd love to personally talk about all the depth this game has, but there's just too fucking much, so I'll give you a rundown of some of the things that impressed me. Each unit has directional armor, meaning that it's stronger in some areas and weaker in others. Tanks, for instance, are the most heavily armored in the front, so for maximum efficiency you should use the move backwards command to move when embroiled in battle or trying to escape. That's right, you can move backwards in this game, and there's a good reason for it. While there are many games that utilize terrain and are programmed so that having the high ground offers some kind of advantage, this one does that, except for in the case of units being positioned directly at the bottom of a slope, at which point the lower unit has the advantage because of how line of sight works. In the real world, this tactic is called reverse slope defense, and it's not often that you hear of that sort of thing being included in a game. All units have morale and veterancy. Morale affects a unit's usefulness in combat, while higher veterancy levels prevent those units from losing morale too quickly. That being said, using weapons in order to terrorize the enemy is a viable strategy, as reducing their morale gives you the advantage in combat. Unlike other real-time strategies, spamming the creation of units is not recommended, and it is not easy to simply overpower your opponent with numbers unless you have the numbers and a strategic advantage in what the individual units are capable of. Not only that, but losing units is permanent, and they cannot simply be repurchased or have more of them summoned. If you die in the game, you die in real life. Luckily, it's not actually you on the battlefield, but look at all those sorry fuckers you just murdered. All weapons are directional, so positioning is ridiculously important, especially in the case of naval warfare, where a variety of weapons can be available on the ship, but their positioning can influence where you can fire and at what range. In some cases, multiple weapons can hit the same target if angled efficiently, but if angled inefficiently, you might not be able to hit someone in your blind spot directly beside of you. There is no visible fog of war. This duplicitous stunt will make you feel like you have the perfect grasp of the situation, but it lies. Missiles out of nowhere, probably because you didn't deploy any recon units, you dolt. I hate my life. The miraculous thing is that all of this is only scratching the surface. Literally just the surface. Like I said, I wish I could go into more depth about any of this. I wish I could tell you more, but I just don't have the time required to meet its prerequisites of having 6 master's degrees in military science, 4 in history, 8 in any mixture of physics and mathematics, and 1 in theology, so I can appropriately pray to the old gods. I don't have the dedication to transcend this mortal coil and become Wikipedia, and I'm not a 10th pedigree scrotomancer from the non-Euclidean realm of Popharos. I just don't have it in me. Normally you can find Wargame Red Red Dragon on the Steam store for the price of $29.99, and boy howdy is it worth every penny. I see people saying that it's a few years old at this point, so it shouldn't be priced that highly, but fuck those people. If you haven't played the game, it might as well be new to you, am I right? If I were into this sort of shit or having my balls crushed by high-heeled women in leather and latex, I might even be willing to fork over $40. If $30 is still too steep for your acquired taste, however, you can wait for it to be on sale for as low as $9.99, at which point it is a steal. Though I haven't personally played much of it, it's easy to see that Wargame Red Dragon offers an advanced take on the real-time strategy genre, going so far as to utilize and reward people for using real-time military strategy and tactics in order to press an advantage in-game. It's a game that requires micromanagement to the point that you're expected to incur losses, and you must respond to those losses accordingly. It's real, it's unforgiving, it's hell, and I think all of those things are pretty fitting for a game called Wargame. It's definitely not going to be for everyone, but if you look at it through an unbiased lens, there's no way you can legitimately say that this is a bad game, though there might be some legitimate complaints. I wouldn't know. For these reasons, I think it's safe to say that Wargame Red Dragon, at least for the sake of the bundle review, earns a 9 out of 10. If you're looking for an in-depth, more challenging and thoughtful real-time strategy experience, there's almost no competition, though again, this should be taken with the world's largest grain of salt. Like, at least the size of a basketball. You have to be looking on that shit the entire time you even think about considering my opinion on this game. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching, and thank you Eugen Systems for putting such a tremendous amount of thought and detail into the mechanics of this game. It really could have done with an interactive tutorial, and a lot of people are going to be hopelessly underprepared because it doesn't, but I suppose in a way that's also war, isn't it? Remember that failure is not the worst case scenario, to glow on with your bad selves, and stay awesome, everyone.